I'm Azure Silver, and welcome to the second time I'm doing this, a breakdown for my Halloween costume. In the past I've done breakdown for performances, but only once before have I done a breakdown for my actual Halloween costume as like a separate video. And that was with Scarecrow because of how elaborate it was and everything. Regardless, I figured with, how I made the DeathStroke costume, I figured I would do that again for this. And also I think because it's just worth it to show it off. Now, if you watched my Becoming Deathstroke for Halloween video, then you know that it was a pretty elaborate costume, and there were a lot of working pieces, so I kind of just wanted, I literally, before I started this, watched back my review of my Scarecrow video, just to make sure I remembered how to do it. Essentially, I'm just going to break down the pieces. If there's a story behind when I got them, then I'll tell you about it, but, yeah, so, boom. There is a picture of my Deathstroke costume. Obviously, I was I was trying to look intense in this photo, because Deathstroke is intense, and I just came off looking I came off looking a little bit stupid, unfortunately. But this right here, this photo was taken in my living room, and this was the first time I put on the Deathstroke costume in its entirety. This was like right after that first time I showed off the Halloween costume, when I was putting it on in my garage. This is that. And so, yeah, so this is kind of like an HD kind of depiction of like the entirety of it, and it looks so cool and so good in HD, I mean. And yeah, so we got this photo we're working with. We also got like a video. It requested my mom spin around, so yeah, you get to actually see the swords, which you didn't get to in video, my apologies. There's the swords, it was last minute in that video. My aunt tied the headband, but she didn't know how to tie it, so it's just tied in a bow. It's just supposed to be dangling. But yeah, then we just got like a still... There's this one too, which is just us kids, obviously Alex, and then my little cousin Lily. And there's just this comedic little photo we took. But no, this was the other photo I really want to work with, is this one. Because there's a lot of moving stuff here. This is kind of like the finalized adaptation of the costume. Of course, having done this, I put it on a couple of times. And by the time I did it in school, as you saw, this, I had improved upon this. But this is still like the basic format for how it worked. So with these couple angles, I'm just gonna quickly, tell you how I came about this. Now, I didn't watch too far into the Scarecrow video. I don't actually remember how much that whole thing costed. So I don't actually know whether the Scarecrow is more costly than this or not. Regardless, this was I think I spent around $150 to $200 on this costume. And just to break it down for you, which is why I'm here, of course. Starting off with like the main features, just working with this. Starting off with the head, we got the mask. That and the chest piece were the first thing I bought. For those of you who don't know a little bit of context, initially I was going to dress up as Mr. Freeze for Halloween. But the more I looked into it, the harder it became to really figure out how I want to do that. And I also just didn't feel as passionate about it as I did some of the others. Despite really liking Mr. Freeze, my heart just wasn't in it this time around. And then I started thinking, well, if I'm not going to do Mr. Freeze, who else could I do? And on the spot, I remember Deathstroke was a thing, and I was like, I should do Deathstroke. And he was so underrated too, so I was like, oh, why didn't I think of this sooner? So yeah, I told Eyeless Arts immediately about it, and he was completely in full support of it. So yeah. My brother around that time bought the Xbox Series X, And because my mother helped him pay for that, she was like, listen, for end of year gift, just, I'm gonna give you extra money for Comic-Con, or sorry, Fan Expo. But I was like, can I use some of that money right now? And then she was like, yeah. So I went searching around Amazon to see if there was something I could buy for my Halloween costume. And I bought this, both the mask and the chest piece. The chest piece initially came all black. I had to tape up like the armor pieces, and then with the help of my father, spray paint the padding around the armored pieces orange, which was a bit of a nightmare, but my father did most of the spray painting with that part. And it was just this tedious process. The mask, you'll see a photo pop up around now, and that was what the helmet initially looked like when I first bought it. It was this paintball mask. I think the chest piece was like somewhere between $50 and $70. The mask, I don't even remember the price of it. I think it's on the cheaper side. It might have been $30. I'm not sure. But yeah, it started off gray, and then at the same time we painted this, we also painted the mask. I don't have a particularly good photo of the mask with me, but yeah. So half the mask is spray painted black, obviously. The other half is spray painted orange. Now this, even at like the very end, on Halloween day, it was chipping. The paint was chipping. So I doubt this half the mask will last like another 10 years. Regardless, before we spray painted it, I took like the end blade of a small pair of scissors, like these ones. Obviously not these ones, because I did this back home. But I took a small blade of scissors. I opened in like this, and I just like kept carving into the mask. And it created this like texture design to give the impression that DeathStroke had been doing it for a while. So if I zoom in here, you can see like all the textured markings on it, and it was like a good somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes to work right there, and that's like all over this side. I didn't touch the black side of it, so the black side's smooth, but I just thought it would be interesting if this side was like completely fucked up and the other side wasn't. And I think I have a photo of the mask like in progress of being painted, and I'll put it up right here. Part of me wishes I just left it at that, but I woke up the next day and my father had spray painted again, and then we got this. And the only reason I don't like this, I mean I do like it, but the only reason I don't like it is because it's such a vibrant orange, and the rest of the orange is so subtle that it kind of doesn't go together. You know, it feels like two different costumes. So, had I done it again, I would have just kept it at the in progress photo that you just saw, because I feel like that worked a lot better for the costume that it was. Also, I damaged the eye afterwards. When I was spray painting for the black half, I put tape, like painter's tape, on the outside of the lens, so that way everything but the lens got spray painted. Whereas on the orange side, I put painter's tape on the inside of the lens, so that way the outside got painted too. And then I just carved up the other side to show that was the damaged eye, which again I thought was a pretty cool design detail, just me taking some creative liberties. But yeah, so that's the story behind like the mask and the armor. Now the armor, I'm well aware, is not completely painted orange, but that's fine. And in fact, the undershirt that I'm wearing is the exact one that I'm wearing right now. It's an MCon shirt, but it's primarily black, and I used that. And then, if we just go to this one. So next up on the list, you got the eye patch. That was bought at Value Village. It was really cheap. It was like somewhere between $2 and $5. The eye patch initially came with... The eye patch came with the... Oh, I guess I should go back to the other one. The eye patch came with the gun holster and the belt. It was all like this cowboy kind of costume, I think. I don't fully remember. But I bought like the gun holster. Yeah. I bought the gun holster with at the same time I bought the eye patch. And I wasn't initially going to use the gun holster or the gun. I literally just bought it for the eye patch. But as time went on, I was like, you know what, I probably should. So I spray painted that black too, and then I put one of the pistols in it. Speaking of which, the pistol, which you can kind of see right there, and the sniper rifle, which was like this black and kind of orangish brown, and then we spray painted it all black. These two are obviously fake guns. They're these little dart gun things I got at the dollar store just down the street. The only thing I bought here in Toronto, really. The pack had 2 pistols and a couple, like I think 3 fake grenades. And then the sniper rifle just came by itself. Both came with these little bullets. So again, obviously fake. But I took the orange tips off and everything to make it look more real. And it does, it looks pretty menacing. But yeah, they're fake, complete plastic, so don't get that confused. But I think in terms of what I bought, the gloves were the next thing I bought after the chest piece and the helmet. And the gloves, you know, they were cheap, I think like $15, maybe $15.99. And they're just, you know, typical combat gloves. I didn't touch them with the spray paint because we were already running dry and this was already a bitch to do. So the spray paint, we didn't touch the gloves. The gloves just remain black, which again, pretty cool. I don't hate it. And yeah, but yeah. So what you're gonna find is that most of this was off Amazon, is the prominent part of it. But the combat gloves, they went over top of the chest piece, so I put the chest piece on and then I put the gloves over top of that. But what then there's, sorry, I know I'm being incoherent. I've got a lot of thoughts in mind that I'm trying to get out. I just need to make sure I hit all my points, you know. Next thing, technically speaking, would be the ski mask that I used. That was literally just my father. I asked him, because I know he'd gotten some for Christmas a couple years back. So I was like, hey, listen, can I borrow a ski mask for Halloween? And he was like, yeah, this is the lightest one I have. So I just used this one. Which again, by the time I did it in Toronto, I had learned to put the ski mask on before I put the chest piece on, so that way it doesn't look like this and doesn't look like that. It's a little bit more refined. Speaking of which, the headband. The headband I had also already owned, so both the ski mask and the headband were free. For those of you who don't know, which will be most of you, the headband I reused because initially I couldn't find any online. And I already owned it. This was the headband I used for Commedia dell'arte when I played Spavento, which is not something you'll find on the channel, but even so, it's something I did, and there's pictures of it probably right here. So yeah, I just figured I'd use it again, and I did, and it worked for what it was. It was a very small part of the costume that I think gets overlooked a lot, but it served its purpose. Next up, there is the bullet belt. Now, the bullet belt was, it's 2 different things, right? And here, I'm just gonna cut and quickly show you just this, like, kind of in progress video that I took, like, halfway through the making of the DeathStroke costume. So just be right back. Okay, so now that you've seen that, if you noticed on this, like, I had the bullet belt and then the bullets were hanging off the side. And so yeah, they came in two different things. The bullet belt itself came from Amazon, and then the bullets are these fake plastic ones that were from, again, Value Village, and were cheaper. They were like, I think, again, like somewhere between $2 and $5. But my mother helped by putting the bullets in the thing while I was in Toronto. But if you notice, even now, like, not all the casings were filled with bullets. We just didn't have that many. But I didn't think it mattered because I didn't want them to take away from it. And also, yeah, the back is a lot more vibrant in terms of orange than the front, just because the back is where we started with all this. But next on the talking point, and also, yes, I grew very aware to put the belt underneath the armor and not around it. The next talking point is the swords. Now the swords, they came with the sheath, and the two of them came together with the sheath. And these are real swords. Like, these are real steel swords that I took up with me, and I couldn't really show off. And I made sure to keep the plastic tips on just to let people know I was being cautious. The swords were probably the most difficult aspect of the costume to do, because I had to find swords that were both cheap and worked with the sheath in a way that I could manage. And finding that was not easy. But during one of my theater history classes, which is one of the only lecture classes I have in Toronto, I was looking over Amazon for swords, and I came across this, and this seemed like the best possible sword I could pick. And the blades themselves are about a ruler's length, with the handle included. It's a little bit longer. But yeah, it said it was a two-piece set, so obviously two swords and the sheath. And the sheath was the real selling point for me, because I really needed, I was more so stressed about looking for a sheath than anything. I was trying to figure out a way to attach it all. But luckily, it came with the sheath, which worked out well in my favor. So it hung off my back like DeathStroke did. And initially I was going to paint one of the handles orange and one of the handles were going to stay black, but they ended up both being black, and they just became twin swords because I didn't really get to use them anyway. But there is that. And I think that's also my favorite part of the costume, are the swords, just because they're swords. Yeah, so there's a better look at the other side of the swords. They got a few holes in the middle that can be used for just about anything. They're lightweight too, and good handles, good grips, just really good stuff overall. Aside from that, there's the pants. The pants, I think, are from the same set as this. Both the chest plate and the pants, I should mention, are motorcycle gear that I bought off Amazon, and the pants are about the same price as the chest piece. But by this point, the orange spray paint had really been expended, so I kind of just got more lazy with it, as you can see there. They're also, I think, a size too small, because although they fit me lengthwise in terms of the legs really well, they didn't have any mediums left, but they had a small. It was a little small around the waist, which created a problem, because it was my least favorite part of the costume. It is also why the gun holster is moved to, like, basically the center of my waist and not off to the side. It wasn't like a movement problem. It was, I needed something to hide the fact that there was a very obvious issue with the costume, and that was that from certain angles you could see a bit of my dick. Yeah, no, it wasn't great. Probably my biggest regret about the costume is the fact that I waited so long to put two and two together. I was struggling to figure out what pants I was going to use. I thought, for a second there, I was just going to use my black dress pants for the costume. And then, like, I think not even a week before, I think it was like half a week before the actual Halloween, I was thinking about it. I was like, wait, my top, it's motorcycle gear for the chest. So if I need pants, maybe I can find some motorcycle gear for the pants. And then I did on Amazon. And I was like, well, shit, okay. And it came like the day I returned to Toronto, which was, it wasn't my sister's birthday, but we were celebrating my sister's birthday. And it was also Friday, October 27th, which was when, you know, officially Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, came out. So, these photos and everything I'm showing you, these were taking place the 28th, the day afterwards, I think. No, no, these are taking place on. No, these are taking place on the 29th, when I returned to Toronto. This was early in the morning, because after that, I met my little sister, and we went to see the FNAF movie for the third time, and then I came back, I hung out with her. Yeah, okay. So, the first time I put it on, first time I put the costume on was 2 days before Halloween, which isn't typically my style, but it was my style on this day. And then the boots are just my brother's short boots that look worn and whatnot, so they looked cool and they fit with the costume, and I wasn't really too concerned with foot gear. Though there were times before I got the pants I was considering using like old soccer shin guards and just dressing that up, because DeathStroke has a lot of gear on. Or I was thinking of using like really hefty kind of boots, but I didn't want like a repeat of Heisenberg, Heisenberg from my Snow White play. That's another story. But yeah, no. Overall, like the costume, it wasn't bad, and overall, like the costume, it wasn't bad. And yes, in this video, I have the eye patch on and everything over top of this. I think overall, the costume went pretty well. And I like how it came together. Again, aside from the mask, because the mask, something about it all just throws me off with the mask the way it is. I wish I thought of something more clever for the mask, and it would have been so good. But yeah, no. This was a hefty kind of project to do, and I'm super proud of how it turned out overall. Yeah, and I think by this point, editing me has already shown you most of like the stuff I have from the background footage of it. I didn't actually, unlike Scarecrow and all the other times I've done it, I didn't take that many photos of my DeathStroke costume. And I don't really have a photo, like aside from these, I don't really have like a decent photo of the DeathStroke costume altogether. Like, I think the best place to find any kind of showcasing of the DeathStroke costume altogether is my DeathStroke video, because that was like the main time I took any kind of showing of it. This was all shot by my family and everything, and I'm just using it again, because why not? But yeah, I didn't really plan any of it, really. Which is bizarre to me. It really is. But yeah, so the DeathStroke costume, I very much like it with just the mask on, because this feels very Slade Wilson, whereas like this, it doesn't really, it's just the mask and everything. I don't know. I feel like I should have, if I could go back and change anything, I think I would have bought a mask that just went over the head completely rather than that, because that, from the side angle, even by itself, just sticking out like that, it throws me off. And I've already talked about like the vibrancy of the orange in the mask. That displeases me, so. But yeah, I think that's my only problem with it, because like this, all of this, even just this, is a really, I like it. I do. All of this is just perfect to me. This is DeathStroke for me. This is my creation, and it worked. I mean, aside from the socks, obviously, if it had shoes. This is DeathStroke for me, but I feel like with the mask on, it kind of throws the costume off, and I could have done it a little bit better. But the mask, if it's by itself, looks dope, and people really liked it too. But I think altogether as a costume, currently unmasked Slade Wilson takes the cake for me. Yeah. But anyway, that has been kind of like a breakdown, a little telling of how I put this all together and everything. I don't know if this was more vague than the one I did on Scarecrow, because I didn't watch the full thing on Scarecrow. I just kind of watched glimpses. I kind of skipped parts and was just like, oh yeah, so I show photos here. So I just kind of just looked at it for the formatting of it, not really what I was talking about. So I don't know if this was remotely as beneficial as when I did the Scarecrow one. But again, that might just be due to the fact that most of this stuff was not really innovative, you know? Whereas Scarecrow, I had to like kind of build a couple things for it. And like I had to sew on the needle glove and everything, and run the pipes through and work all that continuity out. This one, it was just a bunch of stuff from Amazon and a bunch of free stuff, and I was just putting it together in the right way without really having to build anything. I think the most building we did for this was literally the bullet belt. Yeah, I really don't know. I didn't end up using the other pistol, and I did not end up using the grenades. And I couldn't find a way to attach the sniper rifle to the overall armor. Though I'm thinking it would have hung off either the chest or the side of the other leg. But yeah, no, this was really cool to do. And unlike the other ones though, this one I had a fear about using in school, just because I didn't want to get it, like, I didn't want people to think I was trying to present myself as like a school shooter or a terrorist or anything. Like unlike the other ones, which you can clearly tell are kind of like comic book villainy or just generally outlandish. Like even Scarecrow is just meh. This one, you can kind of see it as a real thing. Like a guy with a bunch of armor walking into school with what appears to look like real guns and legitimate swords. Probably not the most pressing or ideal scenario to have. But you know, it is what it is. And yeah, it worked. I carried it around in a duffel bag for like 2 days. And it probably would have been beneficial if I like showed it off right now, but unfortunately most of it's at home now, sitting in a duffel bag in my room. And I'm still here in my dorm, so I can't really present any of that. But yeah, so really quickly before I go, special thanks again. My mother helped make the bullet belt. My father helped spray paint the shit. Wow, that was a voice crack. Eyeless Arts was a big supporter through this whole thing. And this guy who hasn't been on the channel before, and I don't know if he ever will be, but his name is Noah. And that's all the information I'll give you about this guy, but Noah was he's in my acting class. I guess I'll give you that too. He was my artistic consultant on making DeathStroke, because he's also a big comic book guy. So, yeah, props to all those people involved. And yeah, no, this was DeathStroke. Next year, if I don't change my mind about it, next year I will be dressing up as Hush, which is like the fake Batman, for those of you who don't know, and to keep it simple. And I think that's gonna be really cool. And I think that one's gonna be a lot easier to do, because I think I already have the trench coat I'm gonna use for it and all that, and I'm hoping it looks sick. Yeah, so next year's Hush, and I think maybe after that, maybe, no guarantees, I might do Black Mask after that. So Hush and then Black Mask. And then after that, I have no idea. But we'll see. We will definitely see. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I'm Ezra Silver, like, subscribe for more of this world gamer vlogs, whatever else comes. I will see you all very, very soon. Later, guys.